How was Burt with the other actors?
Incredible. Burt not only counseled them, but he gave them advice, he was incredible with Diane, and he was paternal, but he was also, there was an electricity between the two, this older Western hero and Diane Lane, 15 years old. It was very moving. In the film, it's in the film, and I think it's a great scene.
I'm afraid we got you girls into some trouble. We'll get you out.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns. Today we're going to talk about Burt Lancaster's last Western, and we are lucky we have the producer and developer of it, Rupert Hitzig. Rupert, come on in. Good to see you. I've been horseback riding with Rupert. I've done development shows with Rupert, and he is quite the versatile man. He produced a movie called Wolfen with Eddie James Olmos, a terrific film. But we're going to talk about Burt Lancaster today because Rupert put him in his last movie. How did that come about?
Well, the beginning of, when I was 15, I rode across the country on a horse for 109 days. And when I went into partnership with Alan King, the great comic, we had a company in New York, I wanted to do a Western. And a young man named Robert Ward, who was handled by my wife, who was an agent for William Morris, brought me a picture. And it was a picture that basically had Annie and Little Britches, a daguerreotype from 1893. Underneath it said, Annie and Little Britches, 15 and 16, rode with the Doolin Dalton gang when bank robbing was anachronistic because the horseless carriage had come in. They had read about them in the Ned Buntline novels and romanticized them and rode with them for 6 months until Big Bill Tilghman, the sheriff, who was in a mano trying to catch Burt, caught the girls and sent them to Framingham, Massachusetts to a reformatory for girls to get the, quote, smell of the West out of their clothes. When I saw that photograph, I said, this is the Western I want to do, because it was about women in the 19th century, and nobody, I thought, had done that.
You're way ahead of your time.
So ahead of my time, and I asked Bob to write the novel. The idea was to get some underlying rights. So I said, why don't you write the novel? You own the literary rights, and I've got all of the film rights and ancillary rights. He wrote a book that I then could take to the studios and start to package, and I packaged it with 4 different investors, but I'll tell you about that another time. But that's how it started. So anyway, I needed to get a package, as we still do now. And one of the luckiest things of my life was a man named Ben Silverman, who was an agent for ICM, who handled John Wayne, and I met through 3 conversations with John Wayne over a 6-month period because he wanted to do the movie. But at the last conversation, and then Ben got on the phone and says, he's too weak, he can't do another picture, but would you take Burt Lancaster? Now, that was the time in our business when agents wanted to find good projects for their clients. And so I got Burt Lancaster. Scott Glenn and I were in the Marine Corps together, same platoon. We dreamed about making a movie. So I called Scott and I said, would you like to play Bill Dalton? Amanda was Tammy Grimes' daughter, and she wanted to make a movie, and she was in New York. Billy Russ was in New York in a play, and Monty Johnson suggested him. John Savage joined us. Rod Steiger got on it, and we had the greatest cast and the greatest time for 3 months in Durango, Mexico.
Did you meet with John Wayne or just talk to him on the phone?
Only on the phone.
So you got Burt Lancaster.
The Burt Lancaster, and that was the foundation for everybody else. It's like everything else, that once you have somebody that is of that kind of value, then everybody wants to join the party. So we had a great, great cast for this little Western.
Well, you said it was a big party down in Mexico. Why was it so loose down there, Rupert?
It was just fun. Everybody loved it. I produced it from a horseback. They had a leather sack on the back, and they put a cold 6-pack of Tecate in there every day. And I sat on that horse and watched it unfold. And everybody was very, very close. Diane, her father, Burt, who came down to supervise her, and Amanda, and everybody was just so together on this picture that it became a very positive experience.
Well, Amanda's performance is like it can't be her first one. She's so on fire in that.
Amazing.
She's just, the energy, the performance.
We'll have a whiskey.
What? Oh, you will, Rick. Great. Will it be neat or brown?
I'll have whatever the boys are having.
Did you and the director Lamont Johnson, right?
Lamont Johnson.
How did they get her to be so loose in her first film?
That was the thing about Amanda that we liked, because we wanted to think about strong women in the 19th century. And so when David Ayer wrote the rewrite of the script, he wrote in a language that was more like it. So I remember Amanda at the very beginning of the film looks at her boss, and she had been stiffed in the job he worked in the restaurant, and she says, "I'll have my wages." And it was so strong and strident that she kept that character for the whole film and used the language of the time.
Oh, Elrod. If you weren't so dumb and ugly, I wouldn't feel so sorry for you.
I don't think I would talk. I wouldn't even ask you to dance.
Oh, Elrod. You're such a man.
You're a local as shit.
Marry me! Marry me! Out of all 12 of your children, and you can beat me like you can Justin, you don't touch your pay!
You're crazy.
Now, was the language in Robert's book, too, like that?
No, I think David brought that kind of language. He researched it, and he really changed all of the dialogue in the script.
Well, it sure was effective and real.
But I do want to say something about Burt and directors. It's rumored, and I have no firsthand knowledge, that Burt would always come to a point in the production when he'd put the director to the test. So I was kind of waiting, and the third or fourth week, and Kenny was there, and Rusty was there, and Diane was there, and Amanda was, there were 400 cattle, we were about to do a stampede. Monty said to Burt, "Burt, you come out the door there, and you take 3 steps, and you stop on the edge." And Burt stopped, and he looked at Monty, and he said, "Monty, maybe I want to take 4 steps." Monty looked at it, he was being challenged, he said, "Let me say it again. You go back to the door, you come out of the door, and you take 3 steps, Burt." "Well, how about 4? 3, 4. F*** you, Monty. F*** me, f*** you. F*** you." And I was up on the thing with Larry Pizer, the DP, and I says, "Get me down, get me down, get me down." Because there was little Diane, 15 years old, and Kenny, everybody in the cattle. And I got down, and I got myself between them, and I said, "Fuck both of you. Go back to your Winnebagos and cool off. You have half an hour and then be out here." Because I had all these cattle and all these stuntmen and everything. So half an hour went by, nothing happened. And then I went over and knocked on the door. "Burt, it's half an hour." He says, "Okay." He says, "Okay, is the asshole here yet?" And I said, No. Let me get him." Knocked on the door. Monty didn't come out. "Monty, it's 30 minutes. Monty, you know how much I want to direct. If you're not out here in 5 minutes, I'm taking over the picture." The door opened. He says, "All right. Is he going to take 3 steps or 4? I said, "That's up to you guys." Burt took 3 steps, and we went on with the scene.
Nice. That's great.
Come on, let's get out.
And Burt, he had a stroke during the filming.
That was the most tragic thing. On the last day of shooting, I was sitting next to him. We were 10 miles or 10 kilometers into the dirt in Mexico. And I looked over at him, and he looked pale, and then I saw him grab his chest, and he actually fell to the ground. And so I went into action that I could. I was in charge of the set at that point. And I got the guy that was the Teamster captain. He had a station wagon, and we had a metal floor in it because it had a lot of equipment. And we put Burt in the thing, and it was so rough going over that turf that I became the human cushion. And for 10 kilometers, I lay with Burt on me like this as we bounced over. My whole back was black and blue. But I got an Aero Mexico jet, got him back. And 3 months later, we still hadn't finished the film because that was the last day, and it was a very important line. So I asked Burt, is he strong enough to go to Vasquez Rocks and go up on the rocks? And he did. In the end of the movie, the last line is, "May they ride long and hard.
May you ride long and hard."
And he did it with the same gusto that he did during the whole shoot.
Wow. he had such energy during the film, all that horseback riding. I mean, you guys galloping, all, not you, but maybe you were following.
I was following.
is just like thundering through the canyons, and it just looked like a lot of fun. How was Burt with the other actors?
Incredible. Burt not only counseled them, but he gave them advice. He was incredible with Diane. She says to him, "I love you, but I don't love you." And he was paternal, but he was also, there was an electricity between the two. This older Western hero and Diane Lane, 15 years old. It was very moving. In the film, it's in the film, and I think it's a great scene.
Well, she was wonderful in that too. Could she ride as well? I know you had Buck Taylor and Kenny, good on horses, and Burt looked great too.
They were all great riders. I mean, Amanda and Diane both rode well. I don't know why Amanda rode well, because she was from New York, but she did. Everybody did all the riding, and the stuntmen, Tony Epper, Larry Gatlin, they did all of the stunts because they got the thing, we had to have standby Mexican stunt people there, and all Mexican stunt people were built like this with big muscles, but they never got to do any stunts because all the adjustments went to the Americans. They just stood by as they were supposed to stand by until the last scene, which was when we blew up the canyon, and Tony Epper said, "Let's use the Mexicans for this one."
Blow it!
Wait! What about the girls?
Blow the son of a bitch! They'll be all right!
It's off!
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Thanks for watching A Word on Westerns. Each week we post a new episode, and all you have to do is subscribe. Right here, click on this. You won't miss a one. Adios.